if gx has three distinct roots, let's say alpha, beta, gamma, then gx can be written as x minus alpha, x minus beta, x minus gamma, because this is a cubic polynomial, so it can have only three roots. So whatever the roots are, you will get corresponding linear factors, right? Now, the question is saying that each root of gx is also a root of f of x. How many roots are possible for f of x?
So 4.
Number of roots will be 4. So 3 of those roots will be these, right? Basically, 3 of the roots, which are gx's roots, will also be roots of f of x. So what you can say is that f of x has x minus alpha, x minus beta, x minus gamma as factors, because g of x and f of x have common roots. So therefore, f of x can be written as g of x multiplied by one extra factor, which will be x minus, let's say, epsilon, something like this. This is that extra root that f of x has, which is not a root of g of x. So now you have to try and figure out how will you get f of 1. Using this information. F of x is equal to g of x into some x minus something. What is a way to do that? I mean, what you can try and do here is just compare coefficients, right? You'll get some values. Compare coefficients of fn, this. Multiply this, and equate it to this. So if these two polynomials are equal, you should get some values of a and stuff, right? Try doing that. Please mute yourself if there is background noise or if you're talking in the background. You are getting something like this. So you can equate it to this polynomial, and you should be able to get some values at least. So x cube, for example, a minus delta is equal to 1. That is the first relation. X square is this and this. So you get 1 minus A delta should be B. 100 here, X is here, and X is here. So 10 minus delta should be equal to 100. So that gives us delta, right?
Yes.
Correct. So delta will come out to be minus 90. If delta is minus 90, A minus minus 90. So A plus 90 is 1. So A is equal to minus 89. A is coming this, delta is coming this.
B will
So-
also come.
So everything will come now, right?
Yes, sir.
B will also come. So if you want to find out f of 1, you can just put here, you will get g of 1, 1 minus delta. So 1 minus delta, delta is minus 90. So it is 1 minus minus 90, 91. And you have g of 1 here. G of 1 you can put there. So it is 1 plus A plus 1 plus 10. So that is A plus 12. A plus 12 is minus 77. So minus 77 into 91 is your answer, right?
Yes.
So in general, the reason the question was solved was because we were writing the equation as product of the factors. And therefore the fourth degree equation also was product of factors. So it was gx into one more factor. And then we just compared coefficients. So that is a pretty simple question if you know how to simplify equations. Next thing that we will do is for example, this question, and then we will look at a theorem from there. So the question is this: find all the rational roots of rational roots of the equation 6x cube plus x square minus 19x plus 6. Find all the rational roots of this equation. And if you can solve it, solve it. Otherwise, we have to discuss a theorem, which is called the rational roots theorem, using which we can solve this easily. Does anybody know what rational roots theorem is? So actually, rational roots theorem says that if you have a polynomial like this, and so on till here, if this is a polynomial equation, let's say, and the polynomial, all the coefficients are integers, then any rational root of this polynomial will be of the form p by q, such that p divides a naught and q divides a n. So this is the theorem. You try to understand the theorem. It says if you have any polynomial with integer coefficients, then if that polynomial has a rational root, then obviously the rational number will be of the form p by q, where p and q have no common factors here. And if it is p by q is a root, then you know that p will divide the last term or the constant term, and q will divide the first coefficient or the coefficient of x power n. The proof of the rational roots theorem is pretty straightforward. If you put in p by q in it, don't write here, Faisal Iqbal. Why are you writing on the screen, man?
ये समझ में नहीं आया मतलब rational root theorem इंटीजर थ्योरम में समझ में नहीं आता
क्या समझ में नहीं आता है?
rational root theorem और integer root theorem
There is no integer root theorem. What integer root theorem are you talking about? Rational root theorem, how does it come? It is very obvious. If you have an xn, and let's say this is my polynomial plus a1x plus a0. Let's say this is my polynomial is equal to 0. Let's say x is equal to p by q is a root. Then obviously if you substitute p by q in this, you will get p by q power n plus an minus 1 p by q power n minus 1 and so on till a1 p by q plus a0 is equal to 0, right? Then multiply throughout by q power n. Multiply throughout by q power n. So you'll get an pn plus an minus 1 pn minus 1 q of 1 plus an minus 2 pn minus 2 q square and so on till a1 p q of n minus 1 plus a0 q of n is equal to 0. This step everybody is understanding what has happened.
Yes, sir.
You're just multiplying by q power n. Now take all of these terms to the other side. So you will say that I will rub off this part. If you take all the remaining terms after the first term to the other side, you will get an power p, an into p power n is equal to something like this. An p power n is equal to minus an minus 1 p power n minus 1 q power 1 minus an minus 2 p power n minus 2 q square minus so on till minus a0 q power n, right? This is coming. Now you have to realize that this side, the RHS is clearly divisible by q. Clearly divisible by q, right? Each term has some q at least,
Yes.
right? So LHS must also be divisible by q. LHS is also divisible by q. But we said that p by q was a rational number where p and q have no common factors, right? When we said p by q was a root, p and q were supposed to have no common factors, right?
Yes, sir.
So if p and q have no common factors, then obviously there is no factor of q in p power n. P power n is not making it divisible by q, right?
Yes. So Q divides A.
So an must be divisible by q, right?
Yes, sir.
So that is one part of the rational roots theorem that is done. We have proved that if p by q is a root, q must divide an, right? Similarly, you can prove that p must divide a0 also. How will you prove that p divides a0?
We'll take A naught Q to the power N on the right hand side, and the left hand side will be divisible by P. So A naught must be divisible by P.
Take this to the right hand side, and left hand side is clearly divisible by p. So a0 qn has to be divisible by p, and therefore a0 has to be divisible by p. फैजल समझ में आ रहा है कुछ?
वो वाला समझ में नहीं आया सर, ये वाला
क्या वाला?
ये वाला ये पॉइंट
Same thing. This equation take this term to the right side, right?
यस सर
Then left hand side, can you see that every term has a p? Left hand side is divisible by p. हाँ या ना? So obviously right hand side has to be divisible by p, therefore a0 is divisible by p.
समझ में आ गया सर.
Once you know this, like you have to apply this in different situations Basically, it's a very useful theorem. The only condition on this theorem is that the coefficients are integers. All the coefficients have to be integers. So then we can use this theorem P by Q. If P by Q is a root, P divides A naught and Q divides AN. That's all. So applying this to this equation, you can say 6x cube plus x square minus 19x plus 6. We have to find rational roots of this. Let's say rational roots are like this. Then P divides 6, Q divides 6 was this one, Q divides this one. So 6. So P and Q both divide 6. So what are the possible factors of 6? P could be plus minus 1, plus minus 2, plus minus 3, and plus minus 6 also, right? And Q could be also plus minus 1, plus minus 2, plus minus 3, plus minus 6, right?
Yes, sir.
So then you can immediately start getting P by Q possible values are plus minus 1 by plus minus 1, so plus minus 1, plus minus 1 by plus minus 2, so plus minus half, and plus minus 1 by 3, plus minus 1 by 6, and similarly plus minus 2, plus minus 1 we have already written, plus minus 2 by 3, plus minus 1 by 3 we have already written. So you can find out all the list of possible rational numbers you can form from P by Q, right? Correct.
Yes.
And after that, you just have to verify, like check one or two of them. Ultimately, there will be only 3 roots. So once you get 1 or 2 roots, then you can factorize it and get it, right?
Yeah.
So for example, if I check plus 1, you are getting 6 plus 6 plus 1 is not a root, right? Similarly, minus 1 you can check. Is minus 1
Yes.
coming?
No, sir.
Okay. So minus 1 is also not coming. So now check plus minus half. So if you check that, 6 by 8 plus 1 by 4 minus 19 by 2 plus 6. So you will say that this is 3 by 4 plus 1 by 4 is 1. This is also not coming, right? 7 minus 19 by 2 is not coming. So you just have to check a little bit, maybe 1 by 3 or 2 by 3 will happen. So if you check 1 by 3, it is becoming 6 by 27 plus 1 by 9 minus 19 by 3 plus 6. 6 by 27 plus 3 by 27 is plus 1 by 3 minus 19 by 3, this cancels. So 1 by 3 is a root we get, right? Correct.
Yes, sir.
If you get
Yes, sir.
one of the roots, if you get, then you can say that x minus 1 by 3 is a factor.
Sir, divide कर दो.
We will
X
get a
minus,
quadratic and then we can get two other solutions.
correct. X minus 1 by 3 is a factor, divide, get a quadratic and solve that quadratic. Or if you are lucky, then you will get one more root by checking here, right? And if you
Yeah.
get one more root, then obviously then it is over. You get the quadratic only directly. So generally this rational roots theorem is very useful. Now try and apply that in this question.
Sir, I have a doubt.
Hmm.
Sir, in that rational root theorem, if we had some rational coefficients instead of integral coefficients, what would have happened?
Then it will not work. No, if there is rational coefficients, it will not work, because if it is rational coefficients, you can convert it to an integer polynomial, right?
By multiplying the whole thing.
And multiply by the LCM of all the denominators. You can convert it into integer polynomial and then work on it.
Yes, sir. Yes,
But
sir.
the theorem doesn't apply to rational polynomials. It applies to integer polynomials only. But you can convert, if you have a rational roots, rational coefficients, you can convert and make it integer polynomial.
Okay, sir.
The question is this: suppose x lies in the interval 0 to pi by 2, then log base 24 sine x and Here we have 24 cos x is equal to 3 by 2 is equal to 3 by 2. You have to find 24 cot square x. 24 cot square x. First of all, you have to first realize that right now it is not looking like an equation, a polynomial equation, right? It looks like very strange trigonometric equation. So try to from here convert it into an equation which is a polynomial equation first, and after that think about what you can do. Does everyone know properties of logarithms, basic properties?
Can we apply base change?
I mean, you can apply whatever you know and whatever is correct. What base change would you do here? Apply the basic definition. If this is true, then you have a power x is equal to b.
Yes.
You don't have to do any fancy properties, just basic definition of log. Also, you need to know when is log AB defined. Like when does log AB make sense? What is the domain of log AB, base A and B? The domain is
Base is not equal to 1, I get this.
these are the three conditions.
Yes.
Base should be positive, not equal to 1, and the thing inside the log should also be positive. Here, that's why he has said that x lies between 0 to pi by 2, because in 0 to pi by 2, actually, like if you think about it, yeah, it is fine, because in 0 to pi by 2, both
Sin
sin x
will be
and cos x
positive.
are positive. So
Yeah.
at least the 24 sin x and 24 cos x are positive. But if you think pi by 2, this term is not defined, right?
It will become 0.
At x is equal to pi by 2, cos x is 0, so this is not defined. Equation is not defined, right?
Yes.
Similarly, at 0 also, this is becoming 0, right? Correct?
Yeah.
The base is becoming 0, so the equation itself is not defined. So whatever answers you will get should not be 0 and pi by 2 once you get an equation and all. Like if you get an equation out of it and finally answer of the equation is coming 0, then you cannot accept that answer, right? Because the equation, if you look at the original equation, it is undefined when x is 0, right?
Yes, sir.
So apply the basic definition of logarithm now. You can say 24 sin x power 3 by 2 should be equal to 24 cos x. And if you square it, you will get 24 cube sin cube x is equal to 24 square cos square x, right?
Yes.
So now what you can do is
24 टी ले सकते इसको सर एक को
what?
सर 24 साइंस का टी लेके सब्मिट कर सकते हैं
You can do whatever you want to. What are we trying to do? We are trying to convert it into an equation, right? 24 square you can cancel, and I'll write it like this: 24 sin cube x is equal to cos square x, right? I will just simply write cos square x as 1 minus sin square x. That's all. You get the equation. You don't have to do any major thing. Plus sin square x minus 1 is equal to 0, right? This is the equation. Now try to solve this. This is a, if t is equal to sin x, this is a cubic equation. 24 t cube plus t square minus 1 is 0. Now you can hope that you can try that maybe one of the roots is a rational number. That part you can try here. So if one of the roots is a rational number, it will be of the form p by q, and p divides -1, right?
Sir.
And q divides 24. So you can try from there and see what comes. Try it 1 second.
Sir, half 1 by 2.
Is anybody getting any roots?
Yes, sir. It's 1 by 3.
1.
1 by 3 is coming.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, 1 by 3.
Okay. How are you getting the roots? Your p divides -1, so p can be plus or minus
Plus minus
+1. Q can
Zero.
be +-1, +-2, +-3, out of which 1 by 3 is coming for you.
Yes, sir.
1 by 3 becomes 124 by 27 plus 1 by 9 minus 1, which is 8 by 9. Okay, fine. So 1 by 3 is coming. So if 1 by 3 is a root, you can factorize it and take t minus 1 by 3 common, right? Right?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Sir, or we
Well-
can do even one more thing. We
Hmm.
are having 24 sine cube x equals cos square x. So we have 24 sine x equal to cot square x. So basically we know sine x. So
Hmm.
answer is 24 square times 1 by 3.
24 sin x is equal to cot square x, correct? And
We know sine x is 1 by 3.
sin x is 1 by 3 is one possible solution. So you put that, you'll get 8. You'll get 8 into 24, right?
Yes, 8 into 24.
That is one answer, which is 192.
Okay, we need to find all possible.
There are possibilities of other answers, but
Okay.
once you factorize this, you will realize that it will be a quadratic, and this quadratic has no real roots. You have to check it though, because it is possible that it would have some real roots. Then you would have gotten an alternate answer, right?
Yes, sir.
So how do I factorize this once I know t minus 1 by 3 is a factor? Matlab, you know how to divide it and all, right?
Yes.
Like long division, other than long division, you can also directly do it like this. You can say 24 t square into t minus 1 by 3, right? So this is 24 t cube minus 8 t square. So I need a plus 9 t into t minus 1 by 3, right? So that minus 8 t square plus 9 t square is plus t square. You get a minus 3t, so plus 3 t minus 1 by 3, correct?
Yes, sir.
So now we get immediately t minus 1 by 3 comes out, and it is 24 t square plus 9t plus 3, and discriminant of this is negative. So no real roots here, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then the next one is
Sir.
this question.
Sir, instead of taking sine square x as t square, what if we take sine square x as t itself?
It won't help, because then you will have t 3 by 2 and all will come. Because that side it was cos cube x or something, right? I mean, cos square x and sine cube x it was. This side was sine cube, this side was cos square. Something like this was there, no?
Oh, right.
So how will it help if you take sine square x as t?
Yes, sir.
The best way to do is convert this to 1 minus sine square. So, okay, that's it for this question. Then let's try this one. Find the sum of all roots. Find the sum of all roots of the equation x power 2001 plus half minus x power 2001 is equal to 0. What is given is there are no multiple roots. There are no multiple roots. By that, what do we mean? No repeated roots, basically. We have to find the sum of all roots of this equation. So in order to solve this easily, you need to be aware of binomial theorem. Does anybody know binomial theorem?
Yes, sir.
No,
So,
sir.
no, किसी को नहीं पता है क्या?
पता है।
If you have this, binomial theorem is a way to expand this. So you can write it as x power n plus n times x power n minus 1 into y plus n into n minus 1 by 1 into 2 x power n minus 2 into y square and so on till n x y power n minus 1 plus y power n. Now it's a very simple theorem, like you should go on. If you don't know about it, go online, search, you will get the result. You can watch some YouTube videos explaining binomial theorem. There are videos on my channel also. You can find the coefficients by Pascal's triangle. Pascal's triangle, if you have heard of, it's the triangle like this: 1 1 1 1 2 1 1 3 3 1. Basically each succeeding term is the sum of previous top two terms. So 1 plus 2 is 3, 2 plus 1 is 3, 1 plus 1 is 2, and so on. These give you coefficients in the x plus y power n equation. So find out about binomial theorem if you don't know, but in this problem you will have to use it. So use that to try and get the full polynomial. Once you get a sense of the polynomial, you can use Vieta's relation to find some of the roots, right? What is Vieta's relation for sum of roots? Sum of roots is
b
equal
by
to
a.
Minus B by
minus b by a, where this is the second term, right? B is the coefficient of the second term of the polynomial.
2000 power.
Term with the power x power 2000. And a is the coefficient of the first term.
So that Pascal triangle thing is also in binomial theorem.
It is there in many places, but you can get the coefficients of x plus y power n for small values of n, but by just noting the Pascal triangle row. If n is
Okay,
equal
sir.
to 5, I can say 1 3 3 1. This is for n is equal to 3. N is equal to 4 will be 1 4 6 4 1. 5 will be 1 5 10 5 10 10 5 1. These are the coefficients of x plus y power 5.
Okay.
So obviously you cannot keep doing this. So if n is bigger, much bigger, then you cannot do Pascal's triangle. But that is one way to get for small values of n.
Okay, sir.
Here if we try and expand half minus x power 2001, first term will be half power 2001, and second term will be 2001 into half power 2000 into minus x power 1, right? Third term will be, just write a few terms, 1 second. Yeah, so someone is getting 1000 or 500. What is happening?
I think answer is 500, sir.
We will get, next term will be 2001 C2 half to the power 1999 minus x square and so on, right? And when you add x power 2001 to this, then okay, you need the last term here, right? Because last term here and second last term here, you'll get 2001 C 2000 half to the power 1 minus x to the power 2000 plus you'll get 2001 C 2001 half to the power 0 minus x to the power 2001, right?
Yes, sir.
This is the full series binomial theorem. If you don't know these values, this C term, it means combinations, choosing out of 2001, choosing 2. So the values of that we will learn in combinatorics, but you should be familiar with it if you know binomial theorem. So adding x power 2001 to this, what will happen? This term, notice this is 1 only, and this is minus x power 2001. So this cancels this, right? Right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And the polynomial's highest power is x power 2000 here.
We'll need one more term, sir. Previous term.
We'll need maybe 9 x power 1999. So we'll get 2001 C 1999 will half square, and that is minus x power 1999, right? So the highest power is coming this, and let's simplify it a little bit. This is going to be 2001 into half into x power 2000, and this term is the second term. So this is minus 2001 factorial. So it is 2001 into 2000 by 2 into 1 by 4 x power 1999, right? This is the second term. And after that, there are many other terms. We don't care about them because what we need is coefficient of this term by this term, right? We
Yes,
need
sir.
minus b by a. So when you do minus b by a here, you will get this and this and this cancel, and you'll get minus minus plus, and you'll get 500, right? Correct.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What is another way to solve this problem? There is another way to solve this problem. This equation is coming out to be a x power 2000 sort of equation, right? Correct.
Yes, sir.
So there should be total of 2000 roots, right?
Yes.
You can figure out that, look at this, and half minus x power 2001, and this polynomial, you can immediately figure out that the highest power here will be minus x power 2001 and some term with plus x power 2000, and there is an x power 2001 here which cancels this, so highest power is coming 2000, right?
Yeah.
So you can immediately say that this is a polynomial px with degree 2000, right? Now there should be 2000 roots to this polynomial. 2000 roots to this polynomial. We want to find out the sum of the roots, right? Now, if you want to find out the sum of roots of this equation, think about it. Let's assume alpha is one of the roots, right? Let alpha be a root, correct? So what is the relation satisfied by alpha? You have alpha power 2001 plus half minus alpha power 2001 is equal to 0, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Correct. So if alpha is a root, can you see from here that it satisfies this relation? Therefore, instead, if you put beta is equal to half minus alpha, that is also a root.
Yes, sir.
Because if you put, instead of alpha, if I put half minus alpha here, half minus alpha will become alpha, right? And that should also be 0 if this is 0, right?
Yes, sir.
So that is very useful, because now you know that if any root you pick as x, half minus x is also a root,
Yes, sir.
right? So out of the 2000 roots, there will be x1 half minus x1, y1 half minus y1, right? Something like that, right? So there will be 1000 pairs, right?
Yes, sir.
And
Okay,
sum
half
of each is what? Sum of each pair is half, right? Correct.
Yes, sir.
Each pair of roots adds up to half, and there are 1000 pairs. So there should answer should be 500. This is without binomial theorem. Obviously, it's a little tricky because you have to realize that if x is a root, half minus x is also a root. From the equation only it comes. And you also have to realize that total number of roots here is not 2001, it is actually 2000. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Sir.
Okay. Then try. Do you guys know a little bit of complex numbers, basics?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
How much of complex numbers do you guys know? Like, what are complex numbers? Someone explain.
Under root minus 1 imaginary.
Under root minus 1 is what?
Iota.
I mean, don't say one word stuff. Explain what you mean, what you know about it.
So a number consisting of real part and imaginary part is known as complex number.
Okay. Number consisting of real part and imaginary part. How did a number, like what kind of a number is this which has two parts? Generally, numbers are just numbers, one part, right? How does it have two parts? What is the meaning of this? Do you know any nice geometrical meaning of this?
So it lies on the argand plane, so that's on.
Mm. So normal real numbers, where do they lie? They lie on the number line, right?
Yes, sir.
So number line is what? This line can be called number line, right? 0 onwards, this side and this side.
Hmm.
So basically all real numbers will have some place on this line, right?
Yes, sir.
Somewhere you can find any real number you can put somewhere on this line. So the normal real numbers that you have so far been seeing, they are all numbers which are one dimensional. One dimensional because they can be only on one dimension, a line, right? However, if you want to say this is my x and this is my y, actually there are many more places you can be, right? Rather than just on this line, right? There is a full xy plane available to you, correct?
Yes, sir.
So complex numbers are numbers which are two-dimensional. Complex numbers are 2D numbers. Two-dimensional means any point in the plane, wherever you can think of, every point can be written as a complex number. Because it takes two real numbers to specify a point on this plane, right? You can say this point on this plane is a comma b, where a is this distance and b is this distance, right?
Yes, sir.
So if you take two real numbers, you can specify any point on the xy plane, and that point marks a complex number. The complex number is a plus bi, where I is minus root of -1, and this is your imaginary axis, and this is your real axis. So first part of that coordinate of that point is your real part, and the second part of that coordinate is the imaginary part. Just like you do coordinate geometry, xy plane, there are two numbers to denote a point. Same thing is happening here in complex numbers. So this number is written as a plus bi. Why? Because if you think about it, you have to go a steps like this and then plus bi. Any number on this is written in terms of I. So for example, 0 is here, this will be plus 1i, this will be plus 2i, this will be minus I, this will be minus 2i, and so on, right? So here you are going a distance in real axis and plus bi in this axis, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so once you have this complex number like this, what we can do is we can even represent it in a different form. Like there are multiple ways to represent complex numbers. We can represent it in this form called polar form or Euler's form. So have you guys heard of that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So if I give you a complex number 2, 3 or 2 plus 3i, what is the polar form or Euler form for that? In the polar form,
R और थीटा का फॉर्म होता है
what?
R और थीटा के फॉर्म में पोलर कौन होता है
Yeah, r theta. So what is r and what is theta? R is this
R
distance.
e to the power I.
So r will be what? R will be root over 4 plus 9, 13, right? And theta will be, tan theta will be such that tan theta is 3 by 2, right?
Yes, sir.
So your theta is tan inverse 3 by 2 and r is root 13. So you can basically write 2 plus 3i in this way. You can write it as r cos theta plus I sin theta, which is equal to root 13. And if tan theta is 3 by 2, cos theta and all you can find. This is 3, this is 2. So cos theta is 2 by root 13 plus I into 3 by root 13, right?
Yes, sir.
Or you can write it as root 13 e power I tan inverse 3 by 2, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, the reason we are writing it in multiple forms is because the polar form helps you understand multiplication and division of complex numbers in an easy way. So addition and subtraction of complex numbers you can easily do. If I have to add or subtract these two, I just add the real parts and the imaginary parts separately, right? Now the problem is that if I have to multiply, right? Like this is the definition of addition, but definition of multiplication looks weird if you think about it. Like if you were defining a new operation on complex numbers, how would you define multiplication of two complex numbers? Right? Like think about it. If you are defining a new operation, like complex numbers you have defined, addition you have defined like this, right? Add the real part and add the imaginary parts. How would you define multiplication of complex numbers? One normal way to think about it would be multiply the real part and multiply the imaginary part, right? It is wrong, obviously, but why not this? Why not this? Someone could have defined multiplication like this, no?
Mm.
That also makes some sort of sense. You are multiplying the real parts, multiplying the imaginary parts, and writing a new complex number, right? So this is wrong. The reason is because we want to preserve some of the normal rules of algebra and also have some geometrical meaning to multiplication. So actually the way it is defined is ax minus by plus I times ay plus bx, right? This is the multiplication of two complex numbers. It looks weird if you write it like this, right?
Mm.
Like why would somebody think of defining it like this? This seems much simpler. But people have decided to define it like this. Why? Because what you want to do is you want to be able to multiply like algebra. So you're multiplying a into x, which is ax, I into bx, which is ibx, iay, which is this term, and I square by, where I square is -1, so minus by, right?
Mm.
So you want to follow the normal distributive rules of multiplication and use the fact that I square is equal to -1. So that is why definition is like this. Also, now we can think of a nice geometrical meaning of multiplication. So what is multiplication in complex numbers? Anybody knows? Like what I mean is this, like if I have one complex number here, a plus bi, another complex number here, this is c plus di. What is the product of two complex numbers if I have to draw it? Where should I draw the product of these two?
इस क्रॉस प्रोडक्ट कर सकते हैं इसमें?
There is only one product, dude. Complex number doesn't have a dot product and cross product as far as right now you know. Cross product कर सकते हैं मतलब क्या करोगे cross product में? I'm asking the final answer. We know the answer, right? AC minus BD
The
plus.
final complex number will have magnitude as a product of these two magnitudes.
That is true. And this is the final complex number. Now, my question is, do you know where this should be? Where should I put this? On the XY plane. Or do you know a way in which you can understand where to put it?
No, sir.
We can use parallelogram law.
Or we can write it in another form.
So we can use parallelogram law of addition.
No, that will give you addition. No, that will
That
not give you
result-
multiplication.
Sorry, that will give addition.
So if we can write it in Euler form, maybe we can get some.
Yeah, we have to write it in Euler form. So the parallelogram rule of addition and all, what you're saying will give you the sum, right? Sum will be this point, right?
Hmm.
However, it doesn't tell you about products. So for products, it is more useful to write it in Euler form. So the
Yes,
same,
sir, it will get rotated
correct.
anti-clockwise.
So if you think of A plus BI and C plus DI, that can be written as R1 EI theta 1, right? This is theta 1, this is R1, right? And this C plus DI can be written as R2 EI theta 2, right? Where this is theta 2 and this is R2, right?
Yes.
We can convert to Euler form, no, and say that the distance R1 theta 1, R2 theta 2. Now think about it. Multiplication in R1 EI theta 1 form is super easy. This multiplication is very easy, no? It is just R1 R2 e power I theta 1 plus theta 2, right?
Yes.
So the new complex number is R e power I theta, where R is equal to R1 R2 and theta is equal to theta 1 plus theta 2, right?
Yes,
Correct.
sir.
Yes.
So if theta 1 is this angle and theta 2 is this angle, you have to basically rotate this line by another extra theta 2. So from here, make theta 2, it will be somewhere here. And this is your line in which complex number final will come. Also, the length of that line will be the product of R1 and R2. So the line will be stretched a little bit, right?
Yes.
If R1 and R2 were some numbers, R1, R2 is a longer line. So this is the point, and this makes an angle of theta 1 plus theta 2, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Sir.
So basically multiplication can be thought of as multiplication of complex number is rotation plus stretching or compressing. Stretching or compressing. Why stretching or compressing? Because your final length of the complex numbers magnitude will either be more or less depending on if you had R1 as half and R2 as 2, the final length is 1, right? So you could even come down in length or you could expand in length, right? R1 would have been 2, R2 would have been 3, final length is 6, right?
Yes. Sir.
Right. So either stretching or compressing plus rotation. Rotation because initial vector, initial complex number was making some angle 30°. And if this makes 60°, final will be on this, which is 90°, right? So 30° line has to be rotated by 60° to get to 90°, right?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Sir.
So rotation plus stretching and compressing, that is your multiplication. Obviously, division also will follow the same logic. Division will give you R1 by R2 e power I theta 1 minus theta 2, right? So in multiplication, you are rotating anti-clockwise. In division, you will decrease the angle, right?
Yes,
Right.
sir.
Yes. Sir.
Okay, so basics of complex number, some properties you need to know, like for example, Z is a complex number A plus BI, and mod Z is equal to root over A square plus B square, which is basically the R. So this can be written as R EI theta. Now, if you know this, we can define something called a conjugate, which is A minus BI. And from there, we can say Z conjugate is always mod Z square because it is A plus BI multiplied by A minus BI, which is equal to A square minus B square I square, which is equal to A square plus B square, which is R square. So conjugate of a complex number is defined as reflection in the x-axis. If this is my Z, conjugate will be here, Z conjugate, which will be A minus BI, right?
Yes.
And Z conjugate we know. Now properties, some properties of conjugates, basic properties are things like this. If you have Z1 plus minus Z2, whole conjugate is equal to Z1 conjugate plus minus Z2 conjugate. If you have Z1 into Z2, full conjugate is equal to Z1 conjugate into Z2 conjugate. Similarly for Z1 by Z2, whole conjugate is equal to Z1 conjugate by Z2 conjugate. if you have z is equal to r e I theta, z conjugate is basically r e minus I theta, right?
Yes, sir.
Because the length and all remains same, only thing is that angle has become minus theta, right?
Yeah.
Now this conjugate stuff we know. What else? Things that are important from the perspective of equations and all are finding roots of unity given a complex number. So for example, suppose you have a question like this: x power 5 is equal to 1. Find all the roots of this equation. So obviously, like x is equal to 1 is a root, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
But this equation is supposed to have 5 roots, out of which maybe one x is equal to 1 is a real root, but other roots are imaginary, right? Other roots are complex roots. So 4 other roots are possible, but how do we find those roots? That is the question. Basically, right now there is no way, because all you can do, maximum thing that you can do is factorize it like this and say that x power 4 plus x cube plus x square plus x plus 1 is equal to 0. But the problem is that you will be stuck here because you don't know how to find roots of this, right?
Yes.
Correct. So there is a way to solve this equation now, because we know complex numbers, and we will be able to now find all possible roots. The way is this: notice that x power 5 is equal to 1, and 1 can be written as e power I 0, right? Correct. Because e power I 0 is
Yes,
what?
sir.
Cos 0 plus I sine 0, right?
Yes.
Which is 1 plus I into 0, correct? Now, instead of writing it as e power I sine 0, because what I will get here is x is equal to e power I 0 by 5, right? If I solve this. So I will get one root here, x is equal to 1, right? Correct.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
But what I want is not one root, I want 5 roots, right? So what you need to realize is I can write 1 as this also. 1 can be written as e power I 0 plus 2k into pi. Because if you take cos theta, e power I theta is equal to cos theta plus I sine theta. And if you take cos and sine of that, you'll get cos of 2k pi plus I sine of 2k pi, where k is an integer. Always multiple of pi, if you have sine theta will be 0, right? And here, if it is an even multiple of pi, cos theta will be 1. If it is an odd multiple of pi, cos is minus 1, right?
Yes, sir.
So what are we saying? We are saying that I don't want to write e power I 0. I want to write 0 plus 2k pi, because that doesn't change the value. It is still 1. But now I'll write x power 5 is equal to this, right? Correct.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So x will come out to be what? E power I 2k pi by 5, right?
Yes, sir.
If x is e power I 2k pi by 5, now k can be any integer. Let's try out some integers. X is coming as e power I 2k pi by 5. Let's say k is equal to 0. Then x is equal to e power I 0, which is 1, right? If k is equal to 1, x is equal to e power I 2 pi by 5, which is a complex number. It is cos 2 pi by 5 plus I sine 2 pi by 5, right?
Yes, sir.
If k is equal to 2, you'll get x is equal to e power I 4 pi by 5. If k is equal to 3, you'll get x is equal to e power I 6 pi by 5. And if k is equal to 4, you'll get x is equal to e power I 8 pi by 5, right? Now what happens if you put k is equal to 5? See, e power I 10 pi by 5, which is 2 pi, which is 1 only, right?
It will start repeating.
For 5, 6, 7 onwards, it starts repeating and starts giving the same 5 values, right?
Yes.
It will start repeating, everyone realizes it will be 12 pi by 5, and 12 pi by 5 is 2 pi plus 2 pi by 5, right? So that is same as e power I 2 pi by 5. Everyone should understand why it starts repeating, right? All of these 5 values are different from each other, because think about it. This is pi by 5 is 36 degree. This is basically cos 72 plus I sine 72 degrees, right? This is what? This is 144 degree. Cos 144 degree plus I sine 144 degree, right? This is cos 216 degree plus I sine 216 degree. And finally, this 8 pi by 5 is basically 8 into, this is double of this 4 pi by 5. So cos 288 degree plus I sine 288 degree. You can confirm for yourself that all of these complex numbers are at different places on the xy plane. Is everyone convinced? Is everyone understanding what I'm saying?
Yes.
These 5 complex numbers, can you plot them on the xy plane?
Yes, sir.
So we can say that these complex numbers will be like this. The first complex number is at 1. The second one is making 72 degree angle, right? Somewhere here. And length is 1, right? All the complex numbers have length 1, by the way, right? Correct. The
Yes,
next
sir.
complex number is making 144 degree. So somewhere here, length 1. The next one is making 216 degree. And last one is making this 288 degree, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So you get 5 different numbers, which all of which satisfy x power 5 is equal to 1, right? So these are your 5 roots. And notice that if you draw a circle with radius 1, passing through center is the origin. Now all 5 roots are such that they lie on the vertices of a regular pentagon. Why is it a regular pentagon? Because between any 2 roots, if you see, this chord is subtending 72 degree here, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
this chord 2 pi by 5 and 4 pi by 5, the angle between that is also 72 degree, right? So this chord also has same length. This chord also has same length, because everyone is subtending 72 degree between each other, right? Correct.
Yes, sir.
So all the chords have equal length. So the pentagon is a regular pentagon. And anyway, radius of the circle is 1. So these distances are 1. So these are all like congruent sort of triangles which make up this pentagon. Is everyone understanding?
Yes, sir.
So we
Yes, sir.
get 5 roots, and the roots are coming out to be e power I 2k pi by 5, where k is going from 0 to 4, right? Similarly, if someone asks you find all the 3 roots of 1, cube roots of 1, right? What will I do? I will say x cube is equal to e power I 1. I will write as 0 plus 2k pi, right?
Yes,
And
sir.
then I will say x is equal to e power I 2k pi by 3. Now you can put k is equal to 0, 1 and 2. If k is equal to 0, x is equal to 1. If k is equal to 1, then x is equal to e power I 2 pi by 3, which is equal to minus half plus I root 3 by 2. That is the second root. And x is equal to e power I 4 pi by 3. That is the third root, which is equal to minus half minus I root 3 by 2. Right? So these are the three roots. These are called sometimes 1 omega omega square. These are the three roots of x1. This is just a symbol for this. These are just symbols, right?
Yes.
Now, if you plot it on the Argand plane, you will realize that the three roots are like this. One root is 1 here. One root is at 120-degree angle, 2 pi by 3. And one root is at 240-degree angle at 4 pi by 3. This angle is 4 pi by 3. So this is omega square. And you will realize that all the three roots lie at the vertices of an equilateral triangle.
Yes. Sir.
How do we know it's equilateral triangle? Simple. What you can do is find the distance between this point and this point, right? This point is minus half comma root 3 by 2. And this point is minus half comma minus root 3 by 2. Find the distance between this and 1 comma 0. 1 comma 0 to this distance is 3 by 2 whole square plus 3 by 4. 9 by 4 plus 3 by 4, which is 3 and root 3. So this side is coming root 3. You will get that this side is also root 3 and this side is also root 3. Right?
Yes. Sir.
So you will realize that the cube roots of 1 are all lying on the vertices of a regular equilateral triangle. It's a cube root situation, so there are three roots. If it was a fifth root situation, it was a pentagon, right?
Yes. Sir.
In general, what we can say is I have x power n is equal to 1. I can find all the roots. All the roots will be found by this method. This is e power I 2k pi, and x will be equal to e power I 2k pi by n, where k can be 0, 1, 2 till n minus 1. If you put more n further values of k, you will get repeated roots. Same thing will come again. And all the roots lie on the vertices of a regular n-gon of inscribed in a circle of radius 1. Inscribed in a circle of radius 1. Is everyone understanding what is happening?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Sir. So the
I mean-
subsequent roots would be named omega square, omega cube, like
I mean, that omega square and all are only for the x cube is equal to 1 equation. You can call it anything. You can call this root as, like, you should call it like this: 1, x1, x2 till xn minus 1, because this is e power I 2 pi by n. This is e power I 4 pi by n, where basically you're multiplying 2 into 2 pi by n, right?
Yes.
And you'll e power I 2 pi by n into n minus 1 here.
Yeah.
They are not called omega square. That is only for the special case of x cube is equal to 1. But you can call it anything. You know all the roots. These are the roots.
Okay. Sir.
Okay, this was important because sometimes we need complex numbers in our questions here. So in equations and all. So for example, let's look at some questions which will use this. One second, I have to look for some questions. Actually, like what you should do is go through the chapter 1, the polynomials chapter on polynomials and theory of equations in in the senior Pathfinder. And in that Pathfinder book, you can start solving questions from there. Like the last class, I asked you guys to do the beginner first, build up your understanding one and all. You can go ahead now. We have covered quite a lot of theory. So you should be able to solve problems from that chapter.
Okay, sir.
Just do as much as you can. If you have doubts, we'll discuss them. I will find questions which are using complex numbers and I will get back to you. But right now, just practice more from this chapter. Next class, we'll continue. We'll probably finish this equations part and we'll see if there are any doubts and all. And we'll go on to new topics in algebra after this. So that's all for now. I'll see you guys next. You can do pre-college also. That's also fine. Just practice enough questions because equations and polynomials and all, many questions might come where they will use these concepts in some way. So you have to practice enough and make sure that you understand all of these concepts. Theory wise, what we have discussed is sufficient for PRMO and RMO also. Like at least like a theoretical perspective, I think everything that is needed here has been discussed. If we go ahead, we'll do more problems and see what else we can cover. That's all for now. I'll see you guys in the next class.
Sir,
Okay, sir.
also,
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
some things are mentioned in the theory that Pathfinder book 2, like before some build-up for exercises. So should we
What?
go through that also?
Pathfinder.
In that path, senior Olympiad book,
It is mentioned what?
some theories are also mentioned. Like
Yeah,
some-
go through that. That's fine. That's good only.
okay, sir.
Go through that book. That book is good. You can practice theory also and discuss, do the solved examples and exercises.
Okay, sir.
Okay, that's all for now.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.